Well, Jenk is off. He's off work. But we have the PC Pussy panel, I like to call them. They're talking about a new terror attack. Now, this is not France. You know, we're done with that. Okay, we killed those guys. It's a new day. Let's turn the page. There's other things going on in the world. We have a terror attack in Nigeria. Okay, and it was done by religious people. There are over 2,000 people dead, and the number's probably going to skyrocket. There was a village of like 10,000. Basically, it's completely been wiped out, decimated. The numbers are frightening. There was a group of Mormon missionaries down there. They were a bit radical, and they had found some passages in the Book of Mormon that they interpreted in a really odd way, and they used that to justify the slaughter. They just walked in, semi-automatic weapons, and walked in and just decimated, just killed all these Nigerians, and were just screaming, "Joseph Smith, fuck off. You know, praise be to Brigham Young." It was a fucking crazy Mormon bloodbath. I'm just kidding. It was Muslims. It was more Islamic terror. So in light of the ridiculous dogpile of Islamic terror events all over the globe, from Southeast Asia to India to America to Canada to Africa to Middle East to all of Europe, surely the Young Turks are going to recognize this trend and say, this is the cherry on top of this cake of fuckery. That there's 2,000 dead because of Boko Haram. Unbelievable. We have to do something about this. This is not lone wolves. This is not people with mental illness. This is a global threat to all of humanity. This is an ideological sickness and a poison, and we have to stop mincing our words and actually make a stand here. So, let us count the number of times the Pussy panel says the word Islam or Muslim. I'm going to keep the counters there, and you keep an eye on that. Let's see what the takeaway is here from this event. Watch.
The violence in Nigeria has reached horrific new highs with a recent Boko Haram assault on the town of Baga, or I should say the town that used to be Baga, because the town is almost entirely destroyed now, and at least hundreds, possibly thousands, are dead as a result of that attack. One of the senior government officials in that part of Nigeria, Musa Alhaji Bukar, said that fleeing residents told him that Baga, which had a population of about 10,000, was now virtually non-existent. It has been burnt down. Boko Haram is now in control of Baga and 16 other neighboring towns after the military retreated from that region of Nigeria. He raised fears that some 2,000 had been killed in the raids, although other reports put the number in the hundreds. Understandably, it is difficult to get a body count since that area is controlled by Boko Haram, and dozens or hundreds of bodies are literally rotting in the streets and in the bushes because Boko Haram set up ambushes outside of the town for those attempting to flee in the brush. They were hunted down and killed. Some 10,000 people had fled to Chad since Saturday to escape the violence in Baga and the surrounding areas, raising fears of a humanitarian crisis. A large number reportedly drowned as they crossed Lake Chad. Now, we have been reporting on Boko Haram regularly over the course of at least the past 12, possibly the past 18 months. It is an incredibly violent organization that has displaced well over 1.5 million people and killed, prior to this week's attacks, more than 2,000 in just the last year.
Oh shit, here it comes. You better watch out, Islam, because this group of PC, schlubby, dorky, Jewy, excuse-making liberals who are paralyzed with political correctness, they've seen enough. They've had it up to here. You cannot slaughter and massacre innocent people without getting criticized justly, and they are about to go off. So if you are Muslim, and if you are a terrorist, if you are an extremist or a radical that belongs to this death cult, enough is enough, and you're about to get it. Here we go.
We've talked about the government's attempts to contain them. Obviously, those attempts are failing because this is an absolutely massive, it's not a terrorist attack. This is an act of war, an act of civil war that has possibly left thousands dead. And
okay, so first on the chopping block is the government of Nigeria. You're going to face our scorn. That is the problem here. The fucking government of Nigeria has not controlled this problem. And shots have been fired from the Young Turks. They are pointing the finger right at the people responsible, Nigeria's government. Who's next?
Understandably, the world's attention is elsewhere right now, but I had difficulty even finding information about this attack. And for whatever reason, perhaps because Boko Haram is a problem that we have no intention to try to solve in America, or because it happens in Africa, very little has actually been reported on about it. Although thousands possibly have been killed in a single attack.
And that is outrageous total bullshit. Very little has been reported about that. Type in the name of that village, Baga, into your Google machine and watch what comes back. Every news agency is covering this story. This is a massive humanitarian crisis, atrocity. And the only thing that separates this from an attack in France, which was galling and obscene, is that this is not news in Africa. Africa is plagued with problem after problem, and it literally is not new. It's not news. There's attacks all the time in Africa. And I love how it's our responsibility. He's trying to suggest that America, it's our job to police the internal happenings of Nigeria. So we've started with blaming the Nigerian government for not handling this. Now we've moved on to America should solve this. And not only that, we're not covering it because it's Africa. So the not so subtle implication that we are just racists. Oh, it's happening in Africa. African lives, they're black. They don't count as much as white. Everybody knows that. So we're racist. This is self-hatred. This is white liberal guilt. And it's a circle jerk. This is a panel of pussies who are circle jerking liberal guilt at each other. And it's a fucking bukkake festival. Now, we have not mentioned any condemnation of Boko Haram, only in passing. It has not been made the central point of what he's talking about. He has not mentioned the reason that they did this and justified this, the nature, the identity of what this group is. This is not a terror group. This is not a civil war. This is Islam, and these are Muslims. And this has everything to do with that, and it hasn't fucking been mentioned. Continue to watch the counter.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're confident that our eye is on ISIS, our non-authorized war that we're doing in Syria now, so that they know they can get away with a lot of stuff. And obviously, if we don't do anything, then of course nobody does. And we all know what a double-edged sword that is.
Oh, the panel is on fire. Target number 3, the United States government's involvement in Syria. Let me get this straight. Okay, this is what this fucking knobhead just said. He's floating out a theory here that Boko Haram decided to do this attack now because he knows that the United States, okay, I don't know what relevance what the United States has to do with the internal terror attacks of an Islamic group in Nigeria. Okay. The United States' attention is on ISIS and our unauthorized war in Syria. Are you telling me you are against what we're doing in Syria? You're telling everybody's in favor of this. This is completely justifiable. I authorize it. Me, the power vested in me as a voting, tax-paying citizen of the United States, I say spend my money to bomb those fuckers. What we are doing in Syria is the right thing. It should be done. You should stand up to this sort of crazy murderous rampaging and beheadings and tyranny and fascism and violence that we see there. That is an amazing thing. Why are you avoiding blaming Boko Haram and their ideologies for the disgusting, heinous thing they just did and talking about the United States' involvement in Syria, our rightful, justified military incursion in Syria? What the hell?
We ended 2 wars, which we didn't end, either of them.
We didn't.
I'm not saying we should do anything. I just think they're keenly aware.
Oh, no,
that
I'm sort of following up on your point. I'm sure you're right. But like we wound down 2 wars and then we restarted them. And now we got this in Paris and Boko Haram, like whatever window there was, and it lasted for, 3 weeks, where we could have rethought Pentagon spending, or we could have rethought priorities. That is just gone. There's no point in even bringing it up. It doesn't matter who wins the election. It doesn't matter which party controls. Like, it's done. Like, you read these stories that, like, there's these crusading, crazy Muslims in Africa. They could come over to the Middle East. They could have influence. We got to stop Boko Haram. We got to stop ISIS. We got to stop Al-Qaeda. Hezbollah, we don't have to stop anymore. Hezbollah and Iran.
Yeah, that guy sounds great
all of
now
a sudden,
after that
these
other
guys
story.
are right,
Oh, look
because,
at
of course,
that
by
guy.
the
Oh, let's go back in time. Let's bring this back to American foreign policy in 2 totally different situations. This guy's bringing up Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, what the fuck does this have to do with this Nigerian terror attack? If it was anywhere near there, anywhere near the Middle East, they would say, it's our fault exclusively. That we invented Boko Haram. Boko Haram is just reacting to the pictures at Abu Ghraib, or they're reacting to us going into Iraq because Oh yeah, everybody loved the Saddam Hussein reign of terror and his, use of chemical weapons against his own people and the constant rape and imprisonment of people there. Oh, it was amazing. What a lovely dictatorship that was. And so, our involvement in Iraq wasn't perfect. There were no weapons of mass destruction, and you stayed too long. Sure, there was tons of mistakes. That has nothing to do with Muslim terror and Muslim killings and the blood on the hands of Muslims in a region of the world that is completely apart from that. Same thing goes with Afghanistan. And anyone want to mention that the Taliban were and are a terrible group of people? These are the same people that shot that little girl in the face, the same people that just killed all these kids, the same people that are killing constantly nonstop. The Taliban are an awful group of people. We had every right to go in there. They were harboring the terrorists. They were working with terrorists that attacked our country. Who is saying that was a bad thing? These guys tried to use the fog of war and the fact that war is a messy thing. Obviously, we stayed too long. If there was any other way to get out of it, we should have. The criticism of how we handled that war does not mean to say that we should not have taken action in that region. And again, why the hell do you respond to a report about Boko Haram killing 2,000 people in Nigeria with talking about the US's involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq? Or Syria? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Oh God, the nonsense just continues. I mean, what? You know what's great about America and Americans? And I am an American, is that they are so self-centered and narcissistic, they think the world revolves around them. Like, this guy is taking responsibility in a self-hating, blame the victim sort of way, completely missing the point, saying it's America's fault that the attack happened in France. So French citizens who are Muslim kill other French citizens who are not Muslim, and one that was, and that's America's fault. And then he goes on to say, Boko Haram, Nigerian Muslims killing other Nigerian Muslims or Christians, irregardless, that's America's fault. Why? Because we have involvements in Iraq and Afghanistan. Holy shit, these people have been killing and spreading their idiotic, evil ideas by the sword through blood and death and violence before America was founded. This has nothing to do with us. None of the events of American foreign policy are to blame for what these people are doing. This motherfucker thinks that he can get away with saying these outrageous statements. And guess what? They did mention Muslims. They did mention Muslims. The word came up. And you know where it came up? He was quoting a fictional news headline that the press is going to put out, which is going to stoke military fears and make us increase our spending for military. So we got these crazy Muslims, he was trying to be sarcastic, or he's trying to be insulting in tone, saying, oh, these people, they're gonna come out with a story you got Muslim jihadists going around the world killing stuff. There are Muslim jihadists going around the world. You are too pussified to say it, and you only mention it in this condescending bullshit manner that you just tried to say.
Which we didn't mention in that story, what Hezbollah has to do is Hezbollah, which is state-sponsored by Iran, that's their biggest benefactor, and who they're fighting is ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, now, how much can we possibly cut Pentagon spending when we have to, are we going to rely on Hezbollah? Are you out of your freaking mind?
We did technically cut it in the last budget, although overseas operating funds bring the level back up above.
And now look at this. They dive into so much minutia that is so off topic. Look at, they got a graphic on the screen. You got 2,000 plus bodies rotting in the streets of Nigeria, and they're talking about the United States' military cutbacks and our budgetary considerations of our military. This is astonishing. This is the problem. This is the problem. People say, why do you make videos about the Young Turks? What's the big deal? Do you want me to make a video about the terror attack in Nigeria? Here's a video from Atheism is Unstoppable. There was a terror attack in Nigeria, 2,000 are dead. I think that's wrong. I'm going to come out and say it. I think religion's bad. I think that the Islamic religion is the worst, that they're the most violent. These people are the most barbaric and insane. There's no justification. There's no excuse for this. I condemn this. These people are fucking animals. I hate them. The end. Is that a necessary video to make? Can we assume that that's how I feel? That's how everybody should feel? That's a no fucking brainer. These guys have a platform they send out to hundreds of thousands of people, every one of their videos. And what do? They talk about the wrong thing entirely in the most masochistic, delusional, blind, self-loathing manner possible. And that is shameful. They drone on and on. There's nothing else of importance in this video. That's it. It's over. Fuck it. Fuck Muslims. Fuck the Young Turks. And that's it. I'm gone.